The Bills having a press conference, and it's meteoric disaster. And Baker Mayfield dropping bombs on social media. And I think I agree with them. The Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital live starts right now.
Let's go! Manchild wanna talk to you. 'Cause when comes for, it's always coming through. And Boy Green is always on the scene. And what you're always bring to life, singing. So get ready, ready. Get ready, 'cause here they come.
All right, welcome aboard. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. It's our normal Wednesday show where we bring in our NFL insider from PFF, Dalton Wasserman. He'll be along in just a moment. Saw the link there quickly on the screen, how to subscribe to our channel and be part of our growing community. We'd love for you to do that as well. Boy Green, good morning. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm doing great, Lurch, and we'll give a shout-out right off the top rope because we have a very busy show. We surpassed over 475 subscribers on the MC Show digital channel, so shout-out to the audience. And thus, we've done another one of our free giveaways, Lurch. The Anchorman bobblehead is off to the races because we did a drawing earlier today, Lurch. And shout out to Macho Talk Sports.
Nice.
Macho, congratulations. You won our Anchorman bobblehead collection. And our next giveaway we'll be doing is at 500 subscribers. Lurch can promote that later with the golf club. It is free to subscribe, and good luck. And again, we'll be hearing from Macho later. He'll be sending in some videos when he gets the package of goodies. So
I've got the bubble wrap and everything to keep him nice and
Perfect.
safe and get him to Macho.
Nice.
So fantastic. Congratulations, Macho. That's
congratulations.
awesome. All right, without further ado, let's bring in our NFL insider from PFF, Dalton Wasserman. What's up, Dalton? Good morning.
What is up, guys? Always good to hit those subscriber milestones, man. That feels good. And of course, we got another week where there's just absolutely nothing going on, right? Just no drama, nothing. The NFL's so boring, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I often, for years and years and years, going all the way back through my radio and television days, talked about the ineptness of really smart people, really rich people in most cases, stepping to podiums and saying idiotic things. And we are experiencing one this morning with the Buffalo Bills, who felt upon letting their coach go a couple of days ago that now they had to kind of clean up the mess, because not only did they let Sean McDermott leave Buffalo, jettisoned him out after 9 years, but then they made the announcement that Brandon Beane, the GM, was getting promoted, that they were giving him more power, that he was going to have more control than ever before. And if you look critically at this Buffalo Bills team, one side is the performance and not getting to a Super Bowl, and I understand that. It's like, has Sean McDermott reached the ceiling? I don't think he should have been fired, but regardless of how I feel personally, I can understand what they're thinking. Now, will they get somebody who can get them to the promised land? That will be interesting. But Brandon Beane also has not really killed it in terms of talent. The numbers don't lie. 2 Pro Bowlers in their history since Josh Allen was drafted. 2 other guys have made the Pro Bowl. He has not been hitting it in the draft very well, and yet they promote him. So now they feel the need today to step to the podium and clean this mess up, except they're making a bigger mess, Dalton, a bigger mess. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, no, and to be honest with you, I don't wholly disagree with relieving McDermott of his duties, because I think 2 big flaws in a lot of these postseason failures are, number one, his defense just has not shown up in a lot of big games or given up over 30 points, right? And 2, situational football. This team was not a very good situational football team over the years, and to me, that's a lot on your head coach, understanding that he's got to get his players and communicate and understand when these, certain situations matter more than others, right? I think in this last game about Josh Allen's fumble before the first half, right? Or just certain times where you need your team to execute in big moments. So I understand that part, but for this press conference to happen, for them to comment on a player like in Keon Coleman the way they did,
roster, that is, by the way,
still on their roster and was a high draft pick and a guy they were hoping would come through for them. And I think what this week is done is just reveal something that honestly they must have kept hidden for quite a while. it revealed the organizational disconnect, right, between the coaching staff and the front office and ownership, right? And it's just so shocking that it's coming out all at once, right? We've seen reports that, McDermott was making comments kind of backhanded because Beane didn't fill out the roster the way that he wanted it to. Now we're seeing that McDermott was the one who wanted Coleman and the GM didn't necessarily, but they went with it. This organization for years, at least externally, always seemed like it was more aligned than this. And it seems like these problems were for a lot longer than we thought.
Well, boys, let's go to it. I've got the tape. So if folks are like, what are you guys talking about this Keon Coleman situation? Well, let's hear it from the horse's mouth, or perhaps it's a different part of the horse. Well, I'll let you guys determine that. Let's play the footage.
Yeah, can I interrupt? I'll address the Keon situation. The coaching staff pushed to draft Keon. I'm not saying Brandon wouldn't have drafted him, but he wasn't his next choice. That was Brandon being a team player and taking advice of his coaching staff, who felt strongly about the player. And, he's taken, for some reason, heat over it and not saying a word about it, but I'm here to tell you the true story.
And what they shouldn't do there, Dalton, before you commented on it, is just, leave out the names to protect the innocent. You could talk about draft picks that the coaching staff decided over the GM. If you even want to throw out the fact that we were incongruent and not on the same page, I think that's a bad thing to put out there publicly anyway. But to literally put Keon Coleman's name out there, this is a guy on your roster. That guy, if he hasn't already called his agent and said, get me the heck out of here, better get the heck out of there, because obviously he knows how his organization feels about him. My goodness. Oh.
Yeah, I don't know how you can have him on the roster going into next year. I mean, you got to find a trade partner or something, because you can't have that hanging over him, right? And he's got to be feeling like, okay, the people that are here are the ones that don't want me here, didn't want me here in the first place. So I think you're right to go into the specifics of a decision like that. And we know that's not the only one, right? That's obviously, it's not just this one decision that has led to this disagreement. It is clearly a disagreement on how to build this entire roster, right? And there's been talks of McDermott when he was making comments earlier in the year about, how the Jags made such a great trade for Jacoby Myers and things of that nature. And we had that Jalen Waddle rumor that was floating around, and they didn't trade for Jalen Waddle when they had an opportunity to. This really is just one moment that represents the disconnect between the coaching staff and the front office here. So you need to be organizationally aligned. It's a gamble here. If they made the right decision in promoting Beane and just letting him have full say in everything now, and it works, then so be it. If it turns into a Super Bowl down the line, then they made the right decision. But right now, it seems like there's a lot vertically in this organization that's fractured, and you cannot have that if you're trying to win a Super Bowl.
And Dalton, as fellow Jet fans here, how can we not feel great about this? This Buffalo Bills thing is terrific, because you're right. From the outside, when I've looked at the Bills, I'm like, damn it, look at the continuity. Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, they're just so rock solid. 9 years, 8 playoffs with Sean McDermott. Like, damn it, they're just so friggin' consistent every year. They don't, it all seems like everything's all pretty from the outside looking in. Like, man, they just have everything all buttoned up. And to see this, I'm like, this is great. It's from like that latest Toy Story movie. Trash. We're both trash. That's how I feel. We're both trash. The Jets stink. I'm not trying to pretend that we don't right now, but that the Bills have some smelly funk going on over there. That's got to be good news for Jet fans, right, Dalton?
Well, the difference is even through all of their bumbling that's going on lately, they still have a future Hall of Fame superstar quarterback, and we could use one of these. And when you have a Josh Allen, it really hides a lot of these problems well, because to me, the number one reason they've been doing all of that winning is number 17. So, I mean, let's not get that mistaken. Listen, again, I'm not the biggest fan of the way McDermott's handled some of these playoff games. I'm not the biggest fan of the defense that he and the organization have built, because he is the main defensive mind behind it. When you have Josh Allen and you still win ball games with your quarterback playing the way that he does, you can mask a lot of these things. But eventually it gets unmasked in big moments like this last playoff game where the true character of your franchise comes out.
Yeah, again, PR 101 is get in front of the story, but whoever gave the advice for the owner and the GM to get in front of a microphone 2 days after you fire a coach and start addressing all of the internal issues that have been going on over the last who knows how long. This is a bad idea from the get-go. Somebody in the PR department said, yeah. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. At least not right now, okay? Like, I know stories are being written and things are being said, but that's because we've had this coach in here for 9 years and he's done a nice job. Let's not get in front of people and give them whole new stories, and we're getting some whoppers out of this press conference. Go ahead, BG.
Yeah, and then just a follow-up here, like, one of the things from this Bills presser that they aggressively push back on is, so let's sort of paint the whole story. McDermott gets fired, and shortly after he gets fired, Brandon Beane, you're promoted to director of football grand poobah. All right, sweet. And then immediately outside, we're like, wait, what the? I thought the roster was some of the problem, not the coaching. So was there a power struggle going on here? And then Pagula and Beane both strongly say, whoa, power play, schmower play. No, there's no power play element here. And Pagula indicated that Beane was going to do a power play. He would have been thrown out too. But the things that don't make sense is that Pagula is throwing trash at McDermott, saying, Keon Coleman pick was him. Beane is promoted. Like, he was defending Beane. It seems like while they're saying there was no power play, they're also indicating there may have been with a lot of their other word sound. Lurch, you want to add something?
Yeah, and before you answer that, Alton, I just want to add a little bit of context. So Vic Carucci, the Buffalo Bills beat guy,
Long-time guy. Yes.
One of the big-time insiders, has written a lot of breaking stories on the Buffalo Bills. Everybody that knows the Bills knows who Vic Carucci is. Carucci leaked a story or put out a story from good information that he had gotten that a few weeks ago. Okay.
Oh, yes.
You intimated this earlier, Dalton, but let me just put it out there for all to consume here. He put out a story that basically said that the three of them, the owner, the GM, and McDermott himself, were in a meeting, and McDermott was complaining openly to both of them, but especially to the owner, that he didn't have a roster that was Super Bowl worthy, that could win a Super Bowl. All right. And think about that for a minute. If for any of us that have ever had a boss, I think we all have had bosses in our lives,
sure,
right? I think anybody out there listening has probably had a boss in their life. So you go into a meeting with your two bosses. Now, let's just say there's two layers above you, and you say, yeah, that guy right above me, he's kind of been sucking. And you say that to the big boss who's also in the room. What do you think happens when you walk out of that room? I mean, I really admire Sean McDermott for being a man of his convictions, but I also say, geez, Sean, if you're going to do that, maybe you want to do it without the GM in the room. I know you want to have all cards on the table and be transparent, but I don't know that that's the way to do it. That immediately gets the GM going, really? Well, now that he threw me under the bus, I'll have no problem throwing him under the bus. And that appears to be exactly what he had. That Beane had the ear of Pagula more than McDermott had the ear of Pagula, and therefore this power struggle did result in a coach being fired, regardless of the fact that Pagula is saying, oh, no, it's all because of what happened in the Denver game over the weekend. 9 years, and you're going to judge a guy in one single game that went down to a final play? Are you kidding me? Go ahead, Dalton.
No, I mean, again, it just shows you how these two parties obviously they got less and less aligned over the years, right? It didn't feel like that used to be the case. And honestly, objectively, Sean McDermott is right when he makes that assessment of his roster. He's absolutely right. He knows what's coming. He feels like, hey, I've got this superstar quarterback and superstar running back, and they kind of hide a lot of the other flaws on this team. But we have issues. Look, and he's saying this year as a guy who isn't in first place anymore, right? They had won 5 straight division titles, and now New England's passed them up in the standings, passed them up in the playoffs. They might go to the Super Bowl. He's looking at it from that angle, going, listen, we're really good, sure, but we're not the best team in football. And the goal here is to be the best team in football. Right now, we're not that. And I believe it's because the roster isn't good enough. So I get objectively what McDermott is saying. Absolutely. Now, who knows how the actual wording in that conversation went, right? If there was finger pointing, if it was, that objective and, that kind of just straightforward approach where it's like, hey, I don't think the roster is good enough. But there had to be things said in a meeting like that just didn't go over so well, or maybe we're meant to not go over so well, right? Maybe there was a power struggle and, and just questioning the methods of going about building a roster. Obviously, that's going to go back to the GM, whether he likes it or not. That's going to be something that he feels like, okay, he's blaming me for this. He's blaming me for our issues. So but once you get to that point, it gets very, very hard to win because, even within an organization, the whispers come out of that office too. The players know it. The staff knows it. The assistant GMs, everybody knows that there's something bubbling under there. So it really is a problem in one way or the other. They've got to fix the culture of this team now.
So Dalton, who is the next head coach of the Buffalo Bills, because unfortunately for Buffalo Bills fans, with when they were fired and you go through that whole process, they missed out on John Harbaugh. They missed out on any Matt LaFleur trade thing that could have possibly happened. He's already been re-upped. Kevin Stefanski's off the board. And now we're quickly seeing coaches off the board in the coming days since they even made their decision, with obviously Jeff Hafley and Robert Saleh. So who is the next head coach of the Buffalo Bills, and will it be an upgrade over Sean McDermott?
With Brandon being promoted, and the way that everything is going inside that building right now, I'm tempted to think it's one of the two guys that they already know. Number one is their current offensive coordinator, Joe Brady. I would honestly, what I would try to do, I would promote Joe Brady, kind of pull the old Dan Reeves, Mike Shanahan thing that they back in the 90s in Denver. I would make Joe Brady the head coach. And if Brian Flores doesn't get a head coaching job, I would pay everything I could to get him to be the defensive coordinator. And I would hand Brian Flores the keys to the defense, and I'd let Brady make the speeches and run the offense, kind of like McVay used to do when he was first hired and he had Wade Phillips as his defensive coordinator. Or the other option there, I think there's serious noise about Brian Daboll possibly coming back. He was obviously their offensive coordinator before Joe Brady and Ken Dorsey, before he got the Giants head coaching job. They're familiar with him. He's familiar with Josh Allen and all his talents and how he wants to run his offense. So I really think it's going to be one of those two guys. I think Beane is going to lean on somebody he knows. But me personally, I would go with Brady, and I would try to find a big-time defensive coordinator like Brian Flores.
And the one thing that seems crazy to me on the Daboll front is that he's coming out of this job at the Giants where he wasn't all that successful, particularly in his last 2 seasons of the 3. But what they could potentially sell to Buffalo fans, which I think is sellable to that fan group, is the fact that Daboll has the roots. He's a Buffalonian. I mean, he was born in Canada, but he went to school in Buffalo, and he was in the Buffalo suburbs basically his whole, developmental period, most of his developmental life. So you can sell him as a hometown guy. What do you think of that in terms of them selling the fan base on Daboll? Because they've got to sell the fan base here as well.
And it's somebody they're familiar with in a similar position, right? And I know everything didn't go quite the way that he wanted it to in New York City, obviously with the Giants, but he did make the playoffs his first year there with not a great roster, obviously. He was saddled with a worse roster as time went on, right? And even this year, he got Jackson Dart to develop a good amount, and you still saw the offensive prowess that he has. He was just working through a lot of injuries. So look, Brian Daboll's a good coach, no question about it. And the familiarity with Allen and Buffalo and the offensive system and all of that is going to be an easy transition. It's just a matter of taking the chance on, I think if Daboll comes in, then I think Joe Brady is gone. I think Joe Brady's an extremely valuable asset that somebody else will hire in a heartbeat. I think he's one of the best offensive play callers in the league.
Talking to our NFL insider for PFF, Dalton Wasserman. It's the Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital. Don't forget to pop that subscribe button at MC Show Digital. You see the link right there, and become part of our growing community. We are closing in on 500 subscribers. We're just sending some bobbleheads out the door in case you missed it. We drew our latest winner. Boy Green announced that at the top of the show. But we got a $400 golf club going out the door to somebody once we get to 500 subscribers. Today's broadcast brought to you by our friends at Cam's Pizzeria. Let's just take 30 seconds to learn a little bit more about our friends from Cam's.
When you think of Camp's Pizzeria, think about 2 of your favorites, their zesty buffalo chicken wing pizza or their tasty chicken bacon ranch. Over 16 specialty pizzas made fresh daily with the best ingredients. Indulge in their homemade calzones, subs, wraps, salads, and their famous cannolis for dessert. They're all made with love just for you. Order online for 10% off at camspizza.com. Locations in Camillus and Oswego. Cam's Pizzeria. It's love at first slice.
All right, we are back with our NFL insider from PFF. It's Dalton Wasserman joining the Manchild along with Boy Green, and we have a lot to break down. We've been spending the front end of this conversation on the Buffalo Bills, but there are some major stories to talk about. I'll get to John Harbaugh and the Giants in just a minute, Dalton. But before I do, this is a titillating little story this morning. Baker Mayfield. Now, we know that Kevin Stefanski got hired by the Falcons a couple of days ago, and he's going to be their next head coach. Well, Stefanski and Mayfield obviously have a relationship when they were both in Cleveland. And we remember Cleveland had a very nice year. one of the years that Baker was leading them? Remember, he's playing with the hurt left shoulder, running out there, in pivotal games, hurt and still playing through it, and all the respect that he got there. But apparently, when it all ended, it didn't end well. Obviously, the Browns moved forward and went out and got Deshaun Watson in a big trade. Obviously, that jettisoned Baker off, and then he finally settled in Tampa a few stops later and has been very, very successful. Here's the tweet, right directly at Kevin Stefanski. You can read it right there on your screen. Dalton, give me your thoughts about Baker firing off here, man. And if this is true, man, I'm on Baker's side, man. Come on, dude. Do it the right way. This guy gave you his heart and soul as the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. And whether it all was peachy or not, he certainly has earned the right to get a proper send-off from his coach, a proper goodbye. It seems like through Baker's interpretation, he never did.
I mean, that's, I'll take him at his word for that one. And I think the Browns failed Mayfield more than he failed them. That last year where he didn't play very well, he was hurt all year. I mean, what do you want him to do, right? And then they felt like, okay, well, we can go get Deshaun Watson, and he's clearly better than Baker Mayfield. And Baker was still a young player with a lot of potential who was working through injuries, right? So I can see, and Baker Mayfield's the ultimate chip on his shoulder guy anyway, right? If this gets brought up, he's going to hit it out front, and you already know now the Bucs and Falcons are probably going to play week one. It's going to be a whole big story going into week one. There's, as always, some sort of drama that goes into these NFL games. But no, I mean, I get it. I get why Mayfield is tweaked, right? Because it's like, you're the ones who quit on me. You thought you could do better with Watson, and look where it got you, and look where it got that franchise. So going to be a fun back and forth between, the Bucs and Falcons are really fun rivals anyway, and this just adds another piece to the puzzle.
There's no question about it. Also, we have the Salah stuff with that's in the NFC South as well, or AFC South rather, with the Colts, because him and Liam Cohen. So we're going to have a lot of juicy action here, which is a lot of fun. What do you make of the Mike? Speaking of Cleveland, let's use that as a backdoor. Mike McDaniel tells Cleveland, "Yeah, I know I'm supposed to interview with you in person today for the head coaching interview, but yeah, I'm gonna pass." And now he's the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. So it seemed. Who knows if McDaniel would have actually, been the Browns head coach, but the fact that he turned down a potential head coaching opportunity to be an OC, what does that say?
I think, again, it's kind of like when Ben Johnson passed up some opportunities for a couple of years before he took the Bears job. These coaches now are looking for the right opportunities, right? Because if you take over a head coaching job that you feel like is not really, ideal, and it's, it's like a dumpster fire, like you could ruin the rest of your career and the rest of your opportunities to be a head coach again, right? McDaniel can go to LA where there's a stable situation. You've got Jim Harbaugh. Who knows if Jesse Minter will be back as a defensive coordinator, but talking about Justin Herbert, right? And if they get these star offensive tackles back healthy, and Amarian Hampton and Ladd McConkey and all the receivers, there's so much here to work with. You could argue there's more to work with on this offense than there ever was in Miami, especially at quarterback. McDaniel, I think, is doing a really nice job taking advantage of an opportunity here. He can be a head coach down the line. He's still a relatively young guy. And if he's the one who can put this Chargers team over the top, he's going to be highly in demand because he's still an elite offensive play caller. He is. It's just a matter of, if he's going to take another head coaching job, I think he needs to find the right situation for him. I think it's a great hire by the Chargers.
All right, let's shift gears real quick. Talk about John Harbaugh's press conference with the Giants yesterday. What'd you take away from it, Dalton? I'll just leave a nice open-ended question. What'd you think of Harbaugh, how he presented himself as the Giants' new head coach?
I mean, he's a Harbaugh, right? I mean, he's so consistent in his character. He has been forever in Baltimore, and now he's going to go in there. And you can feel just the difference in having a coach who's had a long-standing winning culture, right? Like he has in Baltimore, obviously a Super Bowl champion. And I like that he's embracing that. He's taken over a young team, right? You've got guys like Jackson Dart and Malik Neighbors and Andrew Thomas, guys like that who really give you hope with that team. And I think the interesting part there, and we were talking so much about power structure in Buffalo, well, it seems like Harbaugh is going to be pretty heavy-handed when it comes to the decision-making between him and Joe Shane, right? That was kind of another big story that came out of that process and that press conference, is that Harbaugh is going to have a real say in the personnel decisions on this team. I think John Mara really and Steve Tisch, they really trust that Harbaugh knows what he's doing after all the success that they've had in Baltimore. I think it's a really good hire. I do. I think when you talk about this Giants team, just like the Jets on the other side of New York, they just need to find somebody who can instill a winning culture and make these fans, make people believe that they can get it done again instead of, keeping these long postseason droughts and things of that nature going.
All right, let's jump over to the conference championship games. We have those this weekend. Two teams are going to punch their tickets to the Super Bowl. We'll start with the AFC. I mean, the talk that the Patriots have this easy path isn't going to be going away anytime soon, with Jarrett Stidham now becoming the first quarterback in NFL history to start a conference championship game ever, never having thrown a single pass during it all the regular season that preceded it. So what do you make? Jarrett Stidham and the Broncos versus the New England Patriots.
I don't think this is going to be easy. It's never easy going into Denver. They're really good on defense. They have a great offensive line, actually the best pass blocking unit by our grading in the league, right? So Jarrett Stidham is going to be protected, and obviously we haven't seen him throw a regular season pass in 2 years, but I think Sean Payton's going to have him ready to go. I do not think this is going to be easy for the Patriots. Now, I'm going to pick them to win because I believe in Drake May and I believe in everything that Mike Vrabel's built throughout the year, but I think this is still going to be a tight football game. Sean Payton has won with backup quarterbacks before. It's a reason he's a Hall of Fame level head coach, because he understands game to game what he needs to do to win ball games. The big question for me is whether Denver can support Stidham running the football instead of just putting it all on his shoulders. But I think Denver's got a real chance to win this game. I'm going to pick New England, but it is not going to be as easy as everybody thinks.
And then quickly, the NFC, Dalton, two teams very familiar with each other in the Rams and the Seahawks. You got one that you like?
Always feels like we were destined to get here, doesn't it? I mean, it's just the way the first two games were played so tight. I think this could very well be another tight one, but I'm going to take the Seahawks at home. I think that defense is an absolute monster. And look, the Rams were really the last team to bother them at all in that comeback victory for Seattle back in, I think it was week 16. But their defense is raging hot. The offense is figuring it out. I love the way that Kenneth Walker is running the ball. And I just think the Rams, for the better part of probably a month and a half, they have not played their best football, especially in these two playoff games. They have not played their best football. Matt Stafford has not played his best football in these two playoff games. If the Rams are at their best, they can absolutely go in there and win. But we haven't seen that in quite a while, and Seattle's playing their best football right now. I'm taking Seattle against New England in the Super Bowl. It's 2014 all over again.
So I know the guy in the middle here. It's In Sam We Trust. Is
Sammy.
it In Sam We Trust with Dalton Wasserman?
Yes, as long as I don't want them to have to carry them all the way through this. I prefer they stay ahead and they can stay within their offense. But I think that second half of that Rams game they played last time, I really think that instilled some confidence in them. And again, the Rams secondary is really struggling. I trust Sam to get him through this one, as long as they don't force him to do too much and really have to get in that duel with Stafford.
So you love Sam Darnold, the game manager. That's what you're saying. I like.
Yeah, I could live with it. And that's not an insult at all. It's just that, again, that's not what Seattle's built to do, right? If they can play it more like the last couple of weeks where he throws it 25 times, I think they're going to win.
All right.
And the cool thing is, as we wrap this up, is a lot of Super Bowl rematch possibilities. Seahawks Patriots, we've seen that dance before. Seahawks Broncos, we've seen that dance before. Patriots Rams, we've seen that before. So there's all these different machinations of Super Bowl rematches, which as a history nerd of the NFL is pretty cool. Go ahead, Lurch.
No, that's it. Thank you, Dalton. Always good to talk to you, my friend. I know you got another interview to do here, so thank you for spending the time. We'll talk to you again next week.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys as always. Have fun this weekend.
All right, there he is, our buddy Dalton Wasserman. Boy Green, man, a lot to unpack there and all kinds of stuff, man. Fabulous, as they say. Fabulous.
Absolutely. Again, it's cool that I give a tip of the cap to the NFL. They made the right decision here. Now, if you look at years past, Lurch, around the 21st, Black Monday would have been 2 or 3 weeks ago. A lot of coaches would have been fired. A lot of coaches would have been immediately hired. So as we're going, fired. Oh, look at those hirings. It's taking a lot longer now, which is great for us because that stretches content. Phenomenal. We do have a lot of head coach vacancies now filled. Robert Saleh, Jeff Hafley, John Harbaugh, Kevin Stefanski. But there's still a bunch more to go when you have 10 openings. That sort of thing sort of happens. So that part is pretty exciting.
Well, and I'll tell you what, the NFL has certainly provided a lot of, stories for us to cover, and they just keep on coming. There's going to be so much to unpack in this Bills press conference, and I haven't even watched every minute of it yet.
Right.
Because but we're obviously going to be talking with Anthony tomorrow, our Bills insider, and we will break it all down. But this was not a wise choice by the Bills to get their GM and their owner in front of an active group of reporters. If you
I
want
don't
to
know
make
if that's true.
statement, maybe.
I push back on that. I think it was
know.
very important that they, when you fire a guy like McDermott, who has a lot of standing in the Buffalo community, this isn't a guy who was one and done. This isn't a guy who was here for 4 years and sucked. Like, he was a legitimate, guy that will be
right.
remembered in Bill's history
Fair
forever. So I
enough.
think it was smart to go in front. Now, the things they said
What they
weren't
said, right,
smart,
okay.
but
Fair enough.
doing the
Yes.
press conference, I
Yes.
thought made a lot of sense. Have some accountability.
Just put it
You made
this
a
way.
massive change.
They were ill-prepared for this press conference.
Well,
They were
apparently.
ill-advised in terms of what the game plan was going to be. There's always a game plan going into every press conference about what it is that the message you're trying to get received by the media. That's just the way it works. If you're smart in the world of PR, you don't want the media running in different directions and just doing what they want. You want to give them direction as much as you can. So you streamline your thought process, you streamline your answers, you make sure everybody's on the same page. I mean, we saw it in that brief clip that you showed during the Dalton interview.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, literally Pagula interrupting Bean, who was about to answer that question. Let me handle this one, Brandon. Let me cover your back, And by the way, let me throw one of my players under the bus and run him over 3 times. I mean, Terry Pagula, I mean, come on, this is a smart man. He hasn't gotten to be where he is in life without being an extremely intelligent guy. That is not the right thing to do. I mean, that is disaster all over it. Oh my goodness.
Well, I would say this again. I haven't seen the full press conference pillar to post because we had to do the show, but that wasn't the only time that Pagula interrupted Bean. Bean was asked, he was asked about, what are you looking for in the next head coach and things of that nature. And as Brandon Bean was answering the question, Pagula, like under his breath, but in front of a microphone. So it's not like he said it to just like say it to himself. He clearly said it so people could hear it. He went, bad call. He was talking about all the, it was like a fan was at the podium and like, he just kept getting emotional and leaking it. And like Bean tried to like not acknowledge that it happened, but he stopped talking as the bad call. And he tried to continue to answer the question. But again, the thing that he was also asked as Pagula, wait a second. So you fired Sean McDermott because of the results of the Broncos game. You are also saying out of the other side of your mouth that there was a lot of bad calls. So you fired a coach because of a game that had bad calls in it? And they went, no, we reached a playoff wall, and he brought up 13 seconds, all these other things. But a second ago, you said that it was this reason. So, again, the emotions of the owner, he doesn't do a lot of these press conferences. It's normally Bean or Sean McDermott before he got fired making these calls. So, yeah, he obviously had a lot on his chest to get off to the media, and he hasn't liked how some things have been covered. So, fascinating.
Yeah, a few things to get off his chest. That is for sure. All right, when we come back, quick break. We'll hear from our friends at Box Drop. When we come back, we're going to break down this John Harbaugh press conference soup to nuts. It's one of our Giants insiders, John Schmelk from Giants.com. He joins us when we return. The Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital. Pop that subscribe button right now. We'll be right back.
Considering that we sleep nearly 1/3 of our lives, buying the right mattress is essential. At Box Drop Syracuse Mattress and Sofa Outlet, you'll get a unique experience, one that saves you 30 to 70% off retail prices on top-of-the-line mattresses like Sapphire Sleep. At Box Drop, you'll schedule a mattress fitting appointment and get one-on-one service directly with Paul, the owner. No middleman. Family-owned, huge savings, no-pressure sales designed to save you time and money. And now Box Drop Syracuse has sectional sofas and love seats as well, with prices designed to fit your budget. Box Drop Syracuse Mattress and Sofas. Set up your appointment today at boxdropsyracuse.com.
All right, time now to talk Giants football, and John Harbaugh introduced as the head coach of the Giants, hot off the presses. Let's talk with the guy that I'm sure was there, was asking some of those questions, and I know is going to be intricately around this coach. He works right inside the headquarters. It's the one, the only from Giants.com, John Schmelk. What's up, John? How are you?
Gentlemen, what's going on? I am from said facility right now. How are you?
Loving it.
Beautiful.
Loving the
Beautiful
studio. My pride is coming through here, John. I love this hire. I won't lie. And one of the things that I got from the press conference, and I wonder if you felt the same thing, is, and I know a lot about John Harbaugh. I've watched him coach all these years, but I don't know him intimately, in that press conference space. He just won the room over to me in those first 30 seconds. The way he carries himself, the way that he speaks, the comfortability of being in front of a microphone. I was incredibly impressed by him yesterday.
I think whenever anybody goes in front of a mic in a situation like that, the people that do the best are the ones that are comfortable in their own skin. And I think you see how John Harbaugh talks. And he is uniquely a Harbaugh, all right? The energy, the enthusiasm, the positivity. Like, that's who he is. It's not a show. It's not a game. He's not trying to put a front up. That's just who he is. And I think for someone that had so much success over 18 years, just one season in those 18 years with the Ravens, winning fewer than 8 games, you gain a confidence in who you are and what you believe in, and that what you believe in works. And when you have that confidence, you can go in front of a mic and talk with that sort of forcefulness and personality that we saw from John Harbaugh. And I think that's going to get not just the media and the city, but more importantly, eventually your players to buy in exactly what you're selling.
John, since Tom Coughlin left, there's been a lot of head coaches that have cycled through for the Giants, but I feel free to clarify this. This is sort of builds into my question. It seemed like it was a full court press to get John Harbaugh, Tom Coughlin, Eli Manning. The Giants pulled out all the bigwigs. It was like your guys' 100th year anniversary podcast you were doing. You start grabbing those guys to go full court press to go get Harbaugh, for Pete's sake. So my question off all of it is, has this ever happened before? Was there sort of a uniqueness to Harbaugh's credentials being available and the Giants sort of sensing this and saying, we need to pull out all the stops? Has Eli Manning or Tom Coughlin or others attempted in the past with some of these other head coaching candidates that the Giants have had to do this, or is this a unique situation?
Yeah, ironically, well, I'll answer this in 2 ways. One, yes, it's a unique situation because John Harbaugh, pardon me, I know I was going to do that at least once.
That's going to happen.
John Harbaugh is a unique head coaching candidate, right? Like, how many times do you get a guy that has 18 seasons of 17 of those 18, 8 wins or more, 6 division titles, Super Bowl championship, go down the list of the accomplishments. It was to the point where, guys, look, this wasn't the teams interviewing John Harbaugh and John Harbaugh selling themselves to the teams. This was the teams meeting with John Harbaugh and the teams selling themselves to John Harbaugh. It was like, it was flipped. It was opposite. So yes, in that way, this was unique. While, did the Giants have to make sure they got their guys when they, hired Pat Shurmur, Joe Judge, and Brian Dable? Sure. But this was not like a quarter of the league trying to break down the door to hire those guys the same way everyone was with Harbaugh. So in that way, yes, unique, different. But I think the unique part about that is that Harbaugh was doing his homework on the Giants. So, I just did and it's up there right now and on all the Giants platforms, YouTube channel, app, website, all that stuff. I did 20 minutes with Tom Coughlin, which is up there right now, and he was great. And after Harbaugh lost a job at Baltimore, he tells a story on the podcast. Harbaugh, Coughlin reaches out to Harbaugh to text him, just, I hope you're doing well. They're friends. They had taken a trip overseas with the military back in like 2010, 2009. And they were just going back and forth. And then John Harbaugh texts him back and he says, hey, can we talk? Then they get on the phone. So Harbaugh then starts quizzing him on the Giants, right? And this was before he even met with Chris Mara and did that whole thing over the weekend ago. Mm-hmm. And so it was really John Harbaugh that in a lot of ways reached out to Coughlin specifically to talk about the Giants. In the same way, John Harbaugh reached out to Peyton Manning to get Eli's number to talk to Eli about the Giants. So this was John Harbaugh basically, and eventually I think Brian Dable spoke to John Harbaugh as well about his time here with the Giants. So it was John Harbaugh doing his homework on the organization and making calls to all the people that know this organization best so he could figure out if this was the place for him.
John, one of the interesting things that I witnessed in watching that press conference, and I wasn't in the room, but you can certainly give me that experience. So it was in the big bubble, the indoor facility, which Boy Green and I have both been in. So we know exactly where they were standing and where this was all set up. Throngs of media, and in the back of the room were players, and the players apparently were cheering him on at points during it. So it sounded like the media was clapping, but my understanding, it was mostly the players that were clapping. So give me your read on that and what that actually was like.
Yeah, it was, I would say about, 12 to 20 players, 15-ish, somewhere in that range. I didn't count them. And I think it was just mostly the guys that were in town, like a lot of the big names who were away training or on vacation or whatever. Like Jackson Dart wasn't there, no Dexter Lawrence, no Brian Burns, guys like that. But a lot of the guys that stayed local, some guys that are rehabbing or just live, in and around New Jersey, came to the facility. And yeah, they were there. And, I thought the times that Harbaugh got most excited during the press conference when he kind of looked in their direction and was kind of talking to them directly a little bit. Yes. And he's like, right, guys? And they're like, yes, coach. Yes, coach. And you could already see the level of respect that the players had for him from when he addressed them during the press conference, that they immediately were reacting. Yes, coach. Yes, coach. We're with you. Yes, coach. And I think the best players want a coach like John Harbaugh because he's going to demand a lot from them, and that's going to get the most out of them. And, of course, the team after that. So, yeah, I think the players are very excited, and I think you saw the impact that hiring a coach like Harbaugh will have on the locker room, given, how enthusiastic they will be to get with his specific program.
There was another little fascinating, fun thing that I want to get to, and then we'll get into some of the semantics of the relationship and the hierarchy, which are things that certainly have come up over the last week. Joe Schoen and John Harbaugh obviously took some pictures together. All right. And in one of the shots that I saw, I think I caught it on ESPN I guess it was sometime this morning. Harbaugh and Shane are standing next to each other and they're doing the smiley picture with the Giants logos behind him. And Harbaugh gets up on his tippy toes because Shane's a little bit taller than him to make himself a little taller. And it's like back and forth. I was like, this really shows this crazy guy's competitive fire and his kind of comfortability again, being around these guys that really he didn't know before this. Talk about that a little bit. I thought that was
look, you're 100% right. And I got a story from Ian O'Connor, who was also on the John Settle podcast, who is very tight with Harbaugh. He went to his house back in 2016 to do a big story on both John and Jim. It's still up if you guys Google search.
I watched the whole interview, so you don't have to repeat it.
It's great. Well, there's a huge written story in 2016 for ESPN that's there. You guys can go check that out. And he tells a story. When he gets there, John takes him out to the backyard, and as they're starting to chat, they're shooting baskets. There's a basketball hoop back there. They're shooting. And Ian's like, I was making more shots than him. And John got pissed. Like, he was mad to the point where Ian tells the story on the podcast that I started missing on purpose because I didn't want to piss off my interview subject before I have this long interview with him. And, Harbaugh, he told John this eventually, and John's like, oh, you weren't missing on purpose.
Yeah. He didn't believe him.
He was. So eventually John takes him inside because he's not beating him in hoops. So he brings him inside only. Goes to this shuffleboard thing that he has on the second floor, and he wipes the floor with Ian. It's like 50-4. And Harbaugh keeps keeping track. Like, he's tallying every time every round. Like, all right, I'm up 90-2. I'm up 100-16. And eventually Ian's like, dude, you beat me. I get it. Enough. But that's what the Harbaugh family is, from the dad, who was also there, seems like a great guy, to Jim, to John. They are just, everything is a competition. And I think that's how these coaches try to get the most out of their players, by challenging them to compete every day to get better.
Again, we're speaking with John Schmelk, the do-it-all man for the New York Giants, who somehow has time in the day to hopefully sleep a little and also do an interview with us, which is always great. John Schmelk here. John, you mentioned it earlier, right? Like, half the league was after John Harbaugh, and for good reason. Super Bowl winning coach, 600 winning percentage. Like, he's just been terrific. But with half the league chasing him and the Giants landing him, like, that is a massive celebration, a euphoric win for the Giants, who, the Jets and Giants don't compare very often, but the last 15 years, we've both had our fair share of struggles here. How big of a piece was Jackson Dart's presence on this team in helping sell John Harbaugh to this? Because there was a lot. The Titans were lining up. The Falcons were lining up. They wanted to talk to him, and the Giants were able to close the deal and make sure that he didn't leave the building. How big of a piece, whether from the Harbaugh presser or from, your perspective, that having Jackson Dart here helped sell that and maybe seal the deal here?
Yes, I think there were three parts of this. One was the history of the franchise, and I think that does mean something to the Harbaughs. He's brought that up many times, and just the aura that's the New York Football Giants. So I think that was one. Two was ownership, and I think that might have been the most important part of it, right? If you're a coach, you want to have an ownership group that you respect, is going to be patient, and you can work with. And John Harbaugh had a really good relationship with John Mara from their time in the competition committee. So those two guys, really good relationship. Those are the first two. And then the third part was the roster. And the roster always starts with the quarterback, right? And that's the most important part. That's the leader of the team. And John Harbaugh said it during the press conference. The quarterback's kind of important, guys. And if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a shot. And I think he believes he is a quarterback here. He spent about 2 hours with him when he was in the building earlier in the week, last week, rather, I should say. And, they had to pull him out of there. Those guys could have talked football for hours. So a huge deal. And, if he didn't believe that he could win with Jackson Dart, I do not believe John Harbaugh would be here.
One of the issues was this hierarchy thing, and it led to what sounded like a couple extra days of negotiating to make sure the contracts were right so that John Harbaugh could sign on the dotted line. I'm glad the Giants were able to work that out. The Giants, as you mentioned, John, are a very traditional organization. I mean, they have been traditional. They have a great tradition. They've won championships together, and they've done it a certain way. And that certain way has typically been coach reports to GM. It sounds like in this deal now, John Harbaugh will have direct access to John Mara and report directly to ownership rather than have to go through the GM to get to ownership. It's semantics. John really played it down a lot in this press conference, and I don't blame him for doing so. It sounded like that was the same arrangement he had in Baltimore, and he just wanted to continue on the same path. Comment on that, and was there truly a power struggle here, or do you think really this was just a matter of just getting it right on paper?
It is my belief that the Mara family, once they had the handshake agreement, was not going to let this thing fall apart. So whatever they were going to have to do to get this done, they would have gotten it done first and foremost. And both, you mentioned John Harbaugh, Joe Schoen also downplayed it. Like, look, yeah, I mean, yes, everyone, and I was happy that everyone kind of just, recognized that, all right, John Harbaugh has the final say here. If there's like one group says one thing, one group says the other, and Harbaugh will have final say here. And look, given his success and history and time in the league, I understand that. And that is different than what the Giants have had in the past. Even when Tom Coughlin was here, Jerry Reese and Ernie, of course, he had final call on who the Giants would draft. So that part is a little bit different. But I've been saying this to everybody else, guys. If you get to the point where your GM and your head coach are like really on opposite sides of the fence on something, that's a failure of process.
Right.
And I think the most important part of this here, and one of the first things John Harbaugh talked to us when we did our one-on-one with him, with Sean O'Hara, was that, look, this is a team, and we are going to work together. We're going to, everyone is going to be running down the same path together. And I think that's something Joe Schoen stressed, that this is going to be very collaborative, and these guys are going to work together to come to a decision that is best for the Giants. That's not just one person's decision. So that's why I think both guys downplayed it. They don't think that clause or whatever you want to call it in the contract is ever going to have to be activated, because you build a consensus, you collaborate, and you have an agreement together on what's best for the team. And I think that's how this is going to go. I will comment very briefly on the separate report. That's not so much different than what Tom Coughlin had when he was here. Like, Jerry Reese couldn't just fire Tom Coughlin. Like, ownership was going to fire Tom Coughlin, right? So it's not like when Tom Coughlin was here and he had all the success that he was just subservient to the general manager. Did he have full control over the draft? No. But when Tom Coughlin got let go, that was ownership and John Mara that let Tom Coughlin go. It was not Jerry Reese. So that separate report, not so much different than what, in my opinion, at least, than what it was like here at the end when Tom was here. But the final say on the roster stuff with the coach, that was a little bit different, that they managed to figure out. But to your point, I don't think that's ever going to come down to really being put into effect, because I think Joe Schoen worked really well with Brian Daboll in terms of getting the type of players that fulfilled his vision as a coach, and he'll do the same thing with John Harbaugh now that he's here.
John, we sort of have two dueling things here, right? So again, on one hand, the Giants have made the playoffs twice in the last 14 seasons. So like, expectations have to be whatever that is for that recent history. On the other hand, John Harbaugh, basically every season of his Ravens tenure has been awesome. Like, a bad year for John Harbaugh is 8-8. So he's been really good for a long time. And also, we're seeing these first-year coaches, freaking Mike Vrabel this weekend. And I know it's not his first time ever being a head coach, of course, but his first run here in New England as the head coach, they're in the AFC Championship game. Yeah. Ben Johnson was just in the divisional round, and they were this close and shoulda, coulda, woulda been there. So what
Dan Quinn last year with the Commanders, same deal, right?
NFC Championship game, you 1,000%. So how do you battle those two dueling things here? Because Giant fans like, freaking Harbaugh, let's go back to the playoffs. Let's make a run. Let's go do something. But also, well, it hasn't been as great recently for the Giants. How do you balance those things to beep, boop, bop? What's the E equals MC squared of what expectation should be for the Giants in 2026?
Well, John Harbaugh didn't exactly tamp down those expectations either, talking at his press conference yesterday. Basically, like, well, I think we have a roster to win. Now, I don't think that's win a Super Bowl, right? Mm-hmm. But should the expectations be that we get to December, that when they put those big playoff graphics up, that the Giants are in the hunt column or in the wild card column? Yeah, I mean, I think that's what the expectation is. I think if you look at a lot of the advanced metrics, some of the efficiency metrics, DVOA, even something as simple as point differential, the Giants were better than a 4-win team last year, right? They were probably more like a 6 or 7 win team, I think, is probably where you would put them. If everything, You're not going to win all those close games at the end, but if you win a couple more of those, I think you're probably around 6 or 7 wins, something like that. So what, you got to win 2 or 3 more games to get to 10 or 9 to try to challenge for a playoff spot. I think that's realistic based on what the talent is on the roster. You hope Jackson Dart takes a jump in his second year. John Harbaugh, of course, gets the most out of the roster in terms of what it's going to look like. So look, I think the expectation is that the Giants are competing for a playoff spot next year. I don't think anything's wrong with that. I think that's John Harbaugh's expectations, and I don't think fans' expectations should be any different. But I think it is important to point out, guys, that a lot of times this first year of a head coach, he's figuring out what players can help him, what players are going to fit in the program, what players don't fit in the program, right? So I do think there's a feeling out process too in the first year of a head coach, that a lot of times there's more changes after your first year than before your first year as a head coach, because you actually get to interact with these guys close up and you figure out, all right, who's a John Harbaugh guy, who's not a John Harbaugh guy, and then you kind of go from there.
John Boy Green mentions, the Patriots as an example of a team, boom, that popped right to the top. Obviously, they have a chance to get to the Super Bowl. One of the things the Patriots did on top of, kind of having that seemingly franchise quarterback in place, maybe like the Giants do, we'll see, was they went into free agency and they spent more than any other team this year. So let's talk about the juiciness of this. Will the Giants spend? And this is a guy I want to ask you about in particular, because when in college we bring in a coach, we say that guy's going to go out and recruit. Well, in the pros, it's free agency, but it's recruiting. And I like the idea of Tyler Linderbaum joining the Giants. The Giants could use a little help in the center of that offensive line. So let's talk about what John Harbaugh might bring, quote, as a recruiter. And will the Giants be willing to spend during the offseason for some free agents to try to build a roster that is wild card or playoff worthy?
And again, I think too, when you look at those teams that go for last to first, right? What did you have? Jaden Daniels blew up. Drake May blew up. Caleb Williams took a big step. So I think a lot of this on how well Jackson Dart plays in year 2 also, right? In terms of the money part of it, though, the Giants don't have a ton of cap space this offseason right now, but they can create a lot more if they decide to renegotiate contracts, let go of certain older players. So you can create whatever space you need to do work. So will they be willing to spend? Absolutely. I think when you have a quarterback on a rookie contract, that's when you get aggressive, right? You try to spend some money. You have money to spend because the quarterback's not making a ton of cash. And, that's why you go trade for Brian Burns, right? That's why you go out there, you sign Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland. They had the 5th overall pick in the draft too, right? That should add a impact player right away. So, yeah, I think they'll be willing to spend. Linderbaum's going to be very expensive now. I think John Michael Schmitz did play pretty well last year, and I think both Schmitz and Linderbaum are center-only players. I don't think either of those guys are going to be able to play guard. So I do think that's a big decision if you make it. I have no idea what the interest level would be there. Because I've read that Linderbaum wants like $20 million a year. Like that's the type of money he's looking for. And for a center, that's pricey when you're paying John Michael Schmitz, what, 2 on his rookie contract. So, but maybe a guy like Patrick Ricard, who's kind of that offensive lineman fullback combo. He's a free agent this year. That could be a guy that I think brings a certain amount of physicality and play style that John Harbaugh would want to bring to the Giants. But overall, will the Giants, I think, be aggressive in free agency, bringing in the type of players to remake the roster in John Harbaugh's image? That would not surprise me at all.
Yeah, sorry, Lurch. I guess Linderbaum's going to have to go to a different part of the state. The Jets, perhaps, baby. We got money to burn. We got money to burn, baby.
We're inexpensive, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Well, right now, this just goes to show this is how Linderbaum even became a free agent. This is a random side story, right? Creed Humphrey's the highest paid center in football at $18 million per year. Ravens had to decline the 5th-year option because the 5th-year option was significantly more than the highest paid center in football. They're like, we can't do this. We have to decline it. And now
is that what the 5th-year option was? Was it that much for him?
Yeah, it was $23 million.
And because you know what? Because they put the tackles in that equation.
100%, right? Which is the same thing for franchise tag, and it's even worse.
Right.
If the Ravens were like, boy, you can't 5th-year option him, the franchise tag for an offensive lineman is $27 million. That's $9 million more than the highest paid center. Of course, the Ravens can't franchise tag him, but because of all this hoopla, a really good player is like 25 years of age is going to hit the market. So it's a unique situation. It's good for the 31 other teams, not good for the Ravens. But if I'm Linderbaum, I use my leverage to hit the open market and create a bidding war. Highest bidder, come on down and we'll see. So to me, I think that's going to be fascinating here. Another big piece of this puzzle, John, is the support staff around John Harbaugh.
Yeah.
And, there's been a lot of great reporting. You mentioned Ian O'Connor, who you had on the podcast. I love Ian. We've had him here on the show. Another goodie. I love Gary Myers. I got a bunch of his books behind me. And Gary Myers dropped quite a nugget on social media. And I went, what in the hell is going on here? That the defensive coordinator for John Harbaugh could be former Jets head coach Rex Ryan, who has interviewed twice over the last 5 years. People may not know this, for defensive coordinator roles under Sean Payton, the defensive coordinator role with him with the Broncos, and then with the Cowboys, he interviewed for the DC job over the last 5 years. But he hasn't been in the league in a decade. That was the last time he was a head coach of the Buffalo Bills. So Rex Ryan, John Harbaugh, Baltimore reunited, and it feels so good. How does it make you feel, Schmelk, that instead of jet green, it could be Giants blue?
Look, I've seen too many things in the National Football League to rule anything out of hand. That would surprise me. I think if they hired Rex Ryan, I think Brandon Jacobs would fly up from the South and run through the wall like the Kool-Aid guy and like try to pull him out of the building. As you guys well know, there is no love lost between Brandon Jacobs and Rex Ryan. And there still is no love lost between those two, is my understanding. That would surprise me. I think there are other strings to attach in terms of other, defensive-minded coaches that have worked for John Harbaugh before. You're talking about Walker, who was with Tennessee last year. You look at Weaver, who was with Miami last year.
Zach Orr, right?
Zach Orr, who was with Baltimore last year. There are some rumors that the Giants might want to interview Jim Leonard, who's the secondary coach for the Broncos. The secondary
Green wants him for the Jets. Don't say that too loudly.
The Cowboys also interviewed him, by the way. So that's another competition the Jets are going to have. Durante Moore,
Durante Jones,
Vikings. Thank you. Yeah, the assistant.
Cowboys, Giants, and Vikings. Can you guys back off our guys here? What's going on?
Look, I think right now, guys, there's a large shortage of really good offensive assistant coaches that are out there that people can hire, like Clint Kubiak, Shieldhouse from the Rams, your former offensive coordinator,
Mike LaFleur
from the Rams. But there's that tree's being picked clean. Like there's just not a lot of offensive coaches, but there are a lot of really talented defenses coaches out there for teams looking for DCs or even a head coach who you want to promote from a defensive coordinator spot, right? So I don't think there'll be any shortage of qualified defensive coaches that the Giants can talk to fill that DC spot.
John, 3 key free agents for the Giants going into this offseason: Flott, Wan'Dale Robinson, Illuminor. Do you think the Giants are going to sign all 3? Do you have a favorite couple? What do you think the thought process will be here in terms of making decisions on those 3 guys?
It's a good question. It is important to note, I think, that Jermaine Illuminor did play for John Harbaugh the first couple years of his career. So there is a connection there.
Wow. Yeah.
That was a long time ago, and he was and by the way, this is not me speaking out of turn. Jermaine Illuminor has told me this himself. He sucked when he was with Baltimore. He was not a very good player. So and he has said that to me. Like, I was a bad football player. I was not good. So I don't know what that, does John see him as the guy that was with him then? Does he see him as the guy that he is now? I have no idea. But I think that's important to note. He's going to be expensive too. Like he's a starting offensive tackle. You're looking at what? 20 million, 18 million, like minimum. Yeah. So that gets expensive. Wan'Dale Robinson almost had 100 catches and 1,000 yards last year. That probably starts at 15, right? And how high does it go after that? I don't know. What's Malik Neighbors' status coming back from that injury, right? How many wide receivers you have to bring? Is it Robinson and somebody else? So that's interesting. And then who's the third guy you gave me? Flott?
Yeah, Cordell Flott. Yep.
Yeah, look, Flott was probably their best corner last year. Which is, saying something. Paulson Debo battled some injuries, but Flott was probably their best cover guy. And as you guys well know, good corners don't come cheap. Where does that start at? 15? For a guy like Flott, who's, coming off his rookie contract. So, and it could go higher than that. Teams are flush with cap space, and the free agent class is not very strong either. So these things could get expensive quickly. I would be surprised if they had the money to bring back all 3, just from a financial perspective. I know they like all the players. I'm sure they'd love to. I'm always one to say you can't have enough good offensive linemen. So I would be, probably hesitate most in letting Jermaine Illuminor walk out the door. Yeah. But with the wide receiver position and Neighbors coming off the injury, can you let Wan'Dale Robinson walk? So I think this is tricky. And I think, throw Micah McFadden in the mix too. He was a good linebacker before he got hurt. He's a free agent also. So combining maybe Harbaugh's want to bring in some guys that he's familiar with bringing back the guys the Giants had on the roster last year that I like, I mentioned that right now, at least limited cap space, it's going to be an interesting puzzle that Joe Schoen and John Harbaugh are going to have to put together when they make those decisions this offseason.
John, my final one here. Much to the dismay of my partner on the screen, the Giants pick 5th overall. He wanted a much higher selection than that at the end of the draft.
I
Where
warned
did-
everybody they were not going to pick first. Like it just was
Yeah.
not going to happen with the way that late season schedule was.
Yeah, poor Manchild. So, anywho, Jets move up. Thanks, suckers. Anywho, we picked number 2 overall. You don't. But yes, Giants 5th overall. Where do you go from here? Because, man, you look at the Giants roster and you could see, you mentioned a 5th overall pick. You expect that to be an impact player. You could see that on offense. You could see that on defense. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go here. As always, it probably depends on who goes where in front of you to determine your direction. But what are your early thoughts, John? Because you kill it, obviously, in the draft game with you and Tony Pauline and everybody.
Yeah. We have our draft season podcast. People should check that out. We actually just recorded our Shrine and Senior Bowl preview. That'll post next couple days. So there are not a lot of blue chip prospects in this draft class. I mean, there's just not. There's not a Malik Neighbors. There's not a, Roma Dunze. There's not a Brock Bowers even. There's not, an Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. Like those blue chip guys, in my opinion, are really not in this class, right? So I think, the guys we're talking about is maybe the highest graded players in this draft class. Arvell Reese, an off-ball linebacker. Caleb Downs, safety. Jeremiah Love, running back, right? Are there some good players like Reuben Bain? Is he going to be a good edge rusher? Sure. He also reportedly is like 32-inch arms. So like that's going to scare some teams off. Keldrick Faulk's going to be a good player. Was not very productive this year in terms of sacks. Carnell Tate, the wide receiver at Ohio State, really good player, but is he like Jeremiah Smith? He's not that. Like people argue with me that he might just be a really high-end 2 in the NFL, not even a 1, right? But he's probably going to be a top 10 pick just because of the nature of the draft class. Doesn't mean I love Carnell. He's a good player, but he's not a Malik Neighbors type. You know what I mean? So you have a couple offensive linemen that are okay. The Lomu kid out of Alfano kid out of Utah, part of it. Lomu's his teammate. You have Maui Noah out of Miami, who's probably going to be a top 10 pick. But are these guys like Penei Sewell level prospects? Probably not. So I think the Giants can go a bunch of different ways. If you don't sign Jermaine Illuminor, could you pick an offensive tackle there? Sure. I think they could use off-ball linebacker help. I don't think Arvell Reese will get to him. I would consider picking Sonny Styles with a top 10 pick. I think he's that good of a player. He's really, really good. But again, off-ball linebacker, right? So I don't think there are easy answers here at 5. I think this is going to be a deal where people think they know who's going to go where in this draft class. I don't think anyone's going to have a clue. And I think a lot of draft teams are going to have different draft boards and have these players ranked very differently. And I'll be very interested to see what this top 10 looks like once we get past the All-Star games, the Combine, the Pro Days. I think a lot is going to look very different now than when we get to draft night.
Yeah. Well, the one thing we do know is who's going to go first. After that, it's a total crapshoot.
I think we'd all be very surprised if the Raiders do not pick their quarterback. Given,
I'd be fine with it. I'm fine.
Like half the organization was slobbering on the sidelines during the national championship game.
They were all there drooling.
But again, I just want to make this clear. If they want to get freaky, I'm fine with it at number 2. You want to do something different? Feel free, Raiders. Do it. Yes.
John Schmelk.
Now here's the question: do you want Tyler Simpson at like your like middle like pick 16 or wherever you're picking with your
which I did see in Mel Kiper's latest mock draft. Going there.
Yes.
The thing that scares the heck out of me, and it's this: Rich Cimini had the great nugget. Shout out to Rich, who does a great job for ESPN. The quarterback history of people with less than 20 college starts, which Ty Simpson would fall in that category, is abysmal.
And that's why Dante Moore went back to school, by the way, because he only has 20 starts exactly.
Right. So, Cam Newton, hey, that worked out pretty well, a league MVP and all that. But you look at a lot of the other guys of Mac Jones and man, I had the list up earlier. Like, man,
Sam
Kyler
Darnold
Murray,
was one of them.
Yeah, 100%. You look through the group, and it's like, ugh. So, no, I'm not rushing to draft Ty Simpson. If he's there at 33, which is a great spot to be in, the first pick of the second round, who knows if that'll happen with quarterbacks and supply, demand, and that sort of thing. If he's there at 33, let's chat about it. But 16, I think if I'm the Jets, hey, you know what, John, if you could talk a little less about Sonny Styles, would love if he would just fall there to 16. So
I'm not sure he's getting past the Cowboys at 12, my friend. I wouldn't put that in pen there, but I think the Cowboys are going to pick a defensive player there, and there's a good chance it could be Caleb Downs or Sonny Styles, depending on which one is there.
That's disappointing. So yeah, I'm going to punt on Ty Simpson for now. But thanks, Ty. Appreciate you.
Well, I like your patience, Boy Green, considering that you really do need a QB. That's going to be an interesting offseason.
And by the way, I agree with you. I don't think Simpson's tape is good enough to be picked
No.
at 16, to
Yeah.
be honest with you. I
You
don't.
be wise. Get 2 impact players in the first round and then go from there,
Yep.
Maybe they
I
just
agree.
didn't even trade. I mean, maybe I don't know if anybody's going to trade out for number 2.
But
That's the
everyone
problem.
wants to trade. But who wants
everyone
to
wants to
trade?
trade. It
Well,
feels
here's
like
the
the year.
question.
This feels like the year where everyone wants to trade out and get some more assets.
That is correct. And no one's going to want to trade up. You're absolutely
Correct.
right.
Right.
How much are you willing to pay Malik Willis?
To be honest, you know what? They're doing this whole Green Bay Packers thing down there with Jeff Hafley and John Eric Sullivan. They can have him. He has 6 starts, man. I'm not doing. Someone's going to. Someone is absolutely unequivocally going to do it. Where they're going to give the bag to Malik Willis, and God bless. Is Matt LaFleur? Is that part of the package? Is he coming with him? Oh, he's not. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, so Miami land. Malik Willis
could be Fields 2.0. I mean, there's a lot of weird similarities
risky.
between those guys. Like
6 starts, 6, and I'm not just talking about 6 this year, 6 last year, 6 across his whole career, man. So absolutely not. Dolphins, you want to do that? Fine. And they have an inside track, I'd imagine. So with all the Green Bay action happening down there, feel free. But no, give me.
I do have some news for you. You do actually have to have a starting quarterback next year.
You do.
know that,
Oh
right?
well.
Okay.
That's the problem. You got to have somebody.
Which, by the way, this was it. Jeremy Fowler does this like anonymous piece where he talks to league sources around the league, and their bold prediction was here: these 3 quarterback names are going to be available for the Jets. They can potentially sift through them. And I'm like, oh, great. Who are these 3? Geno Smith reunion, Jets Giants legend, of course. Okay, there you go. Kyler Murray, and then the other one was Tua. Just stay in the division, Tua. Where
you might be able to get Kyler for a pretty small price. Now, and you have the cap space to absorb him, so that might actually be the path. To be honest with you,
I'd be open to some Brock Osweiler action. Oh, the Dolphins want to give us a 2 to eat the contract. I'm willing to dance. Right. You want to dance a little? Sure.
Tua, you might be able to get a pick with him. I'm not sure you're getting a pick to take Kyler Murray. I think
probably not. No. Yeah, so Kyler's probably the name there.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. John Schmelk. Yeah, they got other problems down that other hallway in the Meadowlands there to solve. We got our own problems and they got theirs. John Schmelk, always appreciate the time, my friend. Always great to check in with you. Thanks for carving a little out for us today.
Love you guys. Always happy to be on with you, man. Good seeing you.
All right, there he is, John Schmelk, Giants.com. Very, very enlightening interview. That was cool to talk to somebody that was at that press conference and kind of, experienced what maybe some of us have seen on television or video, in terms of what happened there. But I ultimately, Boy Green, I really, really thought that John Harbaugh handled that presser really
he acquitted himself very well.
He just looked comfortable. He cracked jokes.
Sure.
He tamped down everything about the power struggle. He
Smart,
did what,
by the way.
He talked about things that Giant fans want to hear about, things that ring with us in Giants Nation. The legacy, the history, the whole idea of his dad called them the New York Football Giants, and now he's calling them the New York Football Giants. Like Giants people relate to that.
Right. He's plucking the heartstrings, and it's a good move. It's a very good move.
He's a very, very shrewd guy, and he's good at making connections. I was listening to First Take this morning, and
I'm sorry to hear that.
What's his name?
Stephen A. Smith?
No, he's one of the analysts.
Dan Orlovsky?
Begins with a D. His first name begins with a D. Oh, it's right
on Dan Orlovsky?
No, he's African-American, kind of scruffy.
Dominique Foxworth?
Dominique Foxworth. Dominique.
Okay.
Just couldn't grab it. Dominique Foxworthy played for Harbaugh at some point.
Yes, Baltimore. Yep.
Yeah, in Baltimore. Yep. And he said when he met Harbaugh for the first time, Harbaugh, came over to him, it was just like a one-on-one kind of thing.
Sure. Okay.
And he saw that he had like a globe, the world, like on his phone screensaver or whatever, And he went over and he says, must be a worldly guy. Kind of like just, getting into his phone thing, like getting into his personal world.
Yeah, right, sure.
Foxworthy laughingly said, well, I totally appreciated it. And he was trying to connect with me, on a really personal level. And I really appreciated it. Unfortunately, I had just like stuck that on my phone. Just like I had no purpose. Like most people, their screensaver means something, like
sure, right. Oh, it's random.
I got my dog Mookie. Sometimes I got cool Pittsburgh images. Maybe I have Giant stuff or other.
That's hilarious though. That it was apparently a random image.
It was just a rando, and he was just like, "Yeah, no, actually, I just picked that out of the screensaver thing." So like the connection failed there, but it was an interesting look inside of
nice little
how John
anecdote there.
Harbaugh thinks and
Yeah.
how he individually with players tries to make these logical connections like we do as human beings, right?
Sure,
We connect
of
with
course.
people in a human way. So always if there's a little something that you see, you have a common thread, there's some connection between you and another human, it's good to bring that up. And then you get that immediate like, oh yeah, we're together. It's like if you went to the same school, or you
Sure.
lived in the same hometown, or you
Mhm.
you once, traveled through the same place, and you can share and swap stories. And then all of a sudden, hey, I got something in common with this guy. And I think that's what John Harbaugh does. I think he's just really good with people. I think he's just a really good leader. If I were to walk away with anything out of that press conference, just as an overarching, what I felt as a Giant fan is great leader. This guy he's got it, charisma and levity and he understands the bigger picture. And it was good. It was a very good first acquittal. And there weren't, he said some things that were demonstrative about, we're going to win some things. It wasn't like what we see so often with coaches, which is just like, we're going right to the top. We're doing this thing. He didn't speak of it that way. He spoke of it in, we're going to move this needle one little notch at a time until we get to where we want to be, and we're going to get there. That's it. That was his whole rah-rah.
Which, again, if I'm a Giants fan, I think my takeaway is the franchise is in good hands. It's in the best hands it's been in since Tom Coughlin. That's how I would feel if I'm a Giants fan, because it's just sort of been a whirlwind. I was mentioning it earlier in the statistics with John Schmelk that, you look through the list of Pat Shurmur's, Ben McAdoo's, Joe Judge's, like it's just been a revolving door of stuff that sort of takes you away from that beautiful history that is here with the New York Giants. Again, look, we don't often mention the Jets and Giants in the same sentence outside of the fact that they're in the same market here. But the Giants have made the playoffs twice in the last 14 years. That's abysmal. The Jets haven't made it once in 15 years, so we also stink. But it's an equal level of stinking, despite the fact that the Giants have this great reputation of winning all these Super Bowls and stuff. So it's been tough. Harbaugh is a step in the right direction of trying to clean up that image and bring the Giants back to respectability.
Yeah, I think what I know I'm a Giants fan. I'm wearing Giants gear today.
Yes.
But I am just in general an empathetic human being. And I have no bone to pick with the Jets.
Sure.
Cowboys, I can't stand. The Eagles, get the heck out of here. But when it comes to the Jets, I want to see the Jets succeed. I really do. I want to see the Jets win. And I also can relate to the pain of the Jets fan. I'm a Mets fan. We had a lot of pain over a lot of years. I'm a Knicks fan. My God, we haven't won one since 1973. That's only 4 years removed from the last time your team won one. So I know what it feels to root for a team. I used to put down my ducats and be a season ticket holder for the Knicks. So I was very invested and continue to be in a lot of ways very mentally and emotionally invested in my New York Knicks, who are, by the way, playing some awful basketball right now.
I'm so sorry.
But, the fact of the matter is, I understand the plight of the difficult fan and what it's like not to win. And I really want to see the Jets succeed. I think what has happened here in the last week, unfortunately, as we look at these two franchises that for the last, as you said, 15 or so years have just been like the same.
Yeah, it has been.
The same level of nothingness, the same level of ineptitude, the same level of this year's hope, and then we stink again. 10 games in, it's over already. Start rooting for the losing. Let's get to the top of the draft. Let's see who can save us. It's the same narrative over and over. It gets sickening after a while. All right, we're back up there. We're picking another good guy, and we missed again. It's just awful, 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 and nothing gets better. And that's that is the terrible treadmill that bad organizations get themselves on. What happened what happened this week is, okay, and I know there are Giants fans out there that don't like this hire. I think they're out of their minds. But, the fact of the matter is the Giants got something this week that was huge for where this organization is right now. Hope. Okay? Yes. Hope. We got, and it's not just hope in one player at the top of the draft. It's like a greater hope. It's like an optimism that the whole thing can change here, that someone else is pushing the buttons and making the decisions. And hey, we do have a few guys here, by the way, that could be helpful in this process, like our quarterback, like some of the recent draft picks that the Giants have made. So, and meanwhile for the Jets, they decided to double down on their coach for another year, and the voices are getting louder and louder and louder, and the trumpets are starting to, to block out everything else, all the other sound around us, that was this a terrible mistake to go another year and allow this guy to make some of these picks, to be the voice of this franchise for another year when it was so bad in year number one. Again, you and I have talked about this a lot on the air together and with some of our Jets insiders. I just don't believe a year is enough, okay, to make a decision on a guy. So, and I'm always the steady, stay with the program guy. I think that's what works more often than not. That's just the way that I'm wired and what my experiences in life have taught me. But I hate that the noise is so loud right now that it's hard to focus on a bright future. So the Giants this week got injected with hope. The Jets are still hanging like at the edge of that plank right now, and is the coach going to fall off and we move into a whole new thing or not? You're just hoping and praying that Glenn can really figure it out this year and somehow, some way it comes together. But the bleakness of that is even worsened by the fact that you don't have a quarterback and that now you're not in a draft position really to get one that can get in there right away and help you. Okay. Even if you even end up drafting one early. And so you're left to this free agency world. And you just wonder, will a real viable guy, Malik Willis is what we're talking about here. That's not good. I mean, really, It's not, I do like the idea of Kirk Cousins a lot more, but he's not out there officially right now. He's under contract, and they got a situation where Penix is not going to be back at the beginning of the season. So they're going to even let him go, but he would be a nice, bridge quarterback.
I agree.
Give you some hope. You need somebody like that. And so if you don't get a Cousins, then what is the answer for this year? Because Glenn has to save his job.
Of course.
He has to save at least a part of the Jets this coming season, or it's just over. We just wanted to get another year paying him so we don't have to pay him for 4 years not doing work. We only have to pay him for 3 now. He's got a 5-year contract for crying.
He does. Yeah. And coaches' contracts are fully guaranteed for those who don't know out in the audience. Yeah, Kirk is, to be honest, one of the top quarterbacks on my list. Now, you can say, wow, that can't be a good list. Well, that's up to the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, I guess. Yeah. But the problem is the good thing that happened was Kirk Cousins and the Falcons renegotiated his contract. So there's this big date looming right before free agency where basically Kirk could force his way to free agency. Okay. So that you're like, ooh, delectable. That could be good for the Jets. The problem is Kevin Stefanski, since that negotiation occurred, Kevin Stefanski's the head coach. He was with Kirk in Minnesota where he had a lot of success. And then you mentioned the Penix injury. Maybe Stefanski's just like, hey, Kirk, we're reunited, baby. You shouldn't want to go anywhere. You stay here. Now it'll be up to Kirk to decide if the last 2 years have been such a disaster. I don't care how good a relationship I have with Stefanski. Screw that. I want greener waters and greener pastures, excuse me. And here's the other problem. If he reaches the open market, sure, the Jets are attractive. They're going to give you a team and some things. He could go back to Minnesota. J.J. McCarthy's a disaster. He can just go back to where all his family is and get paid money to play in that dome and be that quarterback. So, yeah, the Jets are in a tough way. There's no question.
They're in a tough way. They're in a tough way in a lot of ways. I don't like the vibe that I'm hearing, and I know you're hearing a lot of it in and around Jets Nation about – even the DC, are there defensive coordinators that actually want to come here that are viable? What kind of relationships has Aaron Glenn been able to develop in his years as both an NFL player and now inevitably an NFL coach? And has he built some bridges here where he can go get a guy that actually is going to be a real big help to this defense and take a little bit of the pressure off of him having to worry about that element? Wow, it's a lot of bad news coming out of Jets headquarters these days, at least from what I see from afar. You agree, disagree?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest ones for me. So, okay, Aaron Glenn is staying. I want him to stay. So let's put that in its own bucket. But now the challenge is how good are those AG connections around the league? He was a player for a long time and a wildly successful player. He's an all-pro, Pro Bowl player that played in the NFL for 15 years. Not a lot of people could do that. He is among the leaders in interceptions all time. He has 41 picks in his career. Not a lot of people have ever done that. So he was a really awesome player and his connections from his playing days. He's been coaching in the league for 12 years as an assistant. He also has a scouting background that he did for a couple of years as well. Let's see in this DC search how good those connections are. Because right now, the Jets had a list of 8. That list of 8 is down to 7. One of the people on their list just took a job with the Jaguars. So now only 7 people of that first round of interviews are left. So, and that list, I imagine, is going to keep getting whittled down as other people start making their coordinator hires. So if AG reels in a big fish, again, a big fish to me, like Jim Leonard, who is highly thought of, highly regarded around the league. He's on an awesome team with the Denver Broncos around a lot of smart minds. If he can reel in that fish, I think AG commands a lot of immediate respect. Whoa. Okay. Everyone thought that this is just some lame duck job, but look at who AG was able to bring in for that job. His connections aren't too shabby, are they? If he hires an underwhelming guy, at least in the offseason talk, which consider that for whatever you will, people are like, oh, that's who you got? But it'll, of course, all be on the results. If he hires a big-name guy and he sucks in the season, Aaron Glenn's going to get fired. If he hires an underwhelming guy and he loses some crap during the offseason, but that guy's wildly successful, that's what matters at the end of the day. So whether it's a big fish, small fish, medium fish, yellow fish, red fish, blue fish, Dr. Seuss over here, you give me the fish that can cause some friggin' defense, which we haven't had.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Okay, just a couple of loose ends to tie up before we get out of here today. Two great interviews. So enjoy them. If you've tuned in late, folks, we'll have this stuff available to you as soon as or as close as we get off the air as possible. Great interview with John Schmelk, our Giants insider, and another great insightful chat with Dalton Wasserman, which we do live every single Wednesday.
Hey, real quick nugget, Lurch, just on that, just to explain to people. So we will upload that as a separate podcast. Again, that's going to be just like your normal Giants interview. If you're a diehard Giants fan that watches the show, we got 200 people in the room. Appreciate it. We'll give another plug for the MC Show digital channel here in a second. We will upload that as a separate Giants podcast, and that will be just like normal. If you normally tune in on a week-to-week basis for a Giant interviews, it will be just like that. It will be cut appropriately, and you guys will only get that interview. You won't get everything else that happened on this program. So, folks, we'll have that out shortly, and obviously, Dalton Wasserman, you can replay this show and get it from that former fashion. And Lurch, again, we mentioned it earlier. I just want to reiterate it if anyone missed it. We surpassed
winner chicken dinner.
100%. Shout out to Macho Talk Sports. Again, there it is, the link on the screen. You guys could be watching this in a lot of different ways. Could have been come over from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, a lot of different places. But youtube.com/@MC Show Digital. We just surpassed a huge milestone, 475 subscribers. Absolutely terrific. Plus, we are doing a couple of giveaways. So since we surpassed 475, we are giving away a
Daddy, baby.
100%.
Big Daddy.
$500
if you bought it new, and look at it, still in the paper. Golf season is coming here.
Let's go full screen for you, Alert. You have that up there. Go ahead.
Baby, look at it. Look at it. That's a Cleveland high bore XL driver. It's adjustable in both the shaft there, and it has the little weights on the back, which is adjustable. I think it's a stiff flex. All right, but like I said, $400 literally still wrapped in the paper. That's going out for our 500th. Once we get to 500 subscribers, one of you 500 who have gotten in here early in our little growing community are going to get that, and we'll have some really cool big time announcements when we get to 500 as well, because it's a landmark in the YouTube world. So again, we've only been here a little over 6 months and been slowly building our community. We appreciate every single one of you who clicked that subscribe button already and is part of our community. We bow to you. We appreciate your cooperation and your dedication and your commitment. For those of you that get into comments every day, we love that. If you're just someone that just likes to watch stuff on your own time, that's the beauty of YouTube, right? That it's on demand, essentially. But you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you see that link right there. And the reason I tell you that is while we're out there, as you see in our bottom right of our screen constantly on Twitter, on Facebook, on all the social media portals, Instagram, YouTube is kind of home base. So if you want to catch up, or you want to just do your Giants stuff, or you just want to do your SU stuff, or you want to do your Jets interviews, all of those are put into playlists, and then you can just check out and watch what you want. You love our live shows and you've missed one, you can go into our live little playlist there and pick and grab our live stuff. So it's all nice. YouTube does a really nice job kind of separating things out and making it really easy to just go get what you want. So that's why I highly recommend that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, which you see right there, youtube.com/@MC Show Digital.
Yeah, and a couple of other things real quick. So, by the way, we have 23 spots left for you to get into that golf club that Lurch was just talking about. Again,
out of here, baby.
Free to be eligible for that giveaway. Again, if you're one of our first 500 subscribers, you're eligible for, again, a $400 golf club free, shipping free, the golf club to you, all that is free. All you have to do is subscribe. So even if you are a Twitter watcher, that's how you enjoy the show. Even if you're a watcher on my YouTube channel, you still want to subscribe to the MC Show Digital one, so you're eligible for these giveaways. You want to be a part of that family. So even if you like doing it in your own way, subscribe so you're a part of these giveaways and part of our community. We would love to help it grow. So again, if you're one of the next 23 subscribers, you're in for that free golf club baby, which is terrific. And hopefully you guys enjoy the content as well. So again, we'll have John Schmelk, that interview posted on the podcast here shortly. So thank you to John Schmelk and then Dalton Wasserman, as always, for joining us all season long. That was terrific. So only 23 spots left. We have 477 subscribers at the time of business right now as I hit the refresh button to check if we're getting any new clicks jumping on in here. But folks, make sure you do it. And again, the faster we get to 500, the sooner we'll give it away, Lurch. You don't want that golf club in your house any more than anyone else, okay? So folks, recommend, recruit your friends, family, others to subscribe to the channel so Lurch can get that out the door, and then we'll get other exciting things coming down the way.
Yeah, if we don't get this thing out here soon and golf season starts in Central New York, I'm going to unwrap that thing and take it out on the course
for yourself. Oh, wow. There you go.
You're going to get yourself a used golf club. You don't want that, man. You don't want that to happen.
You're right. And I see that from Jamie, the FedEx guy, says, when does everyone get to see my beautiful face on the airwaves? I preferred you, Jamie, when you called
not
in.
To have his beautiful face on the airwaves.
I preferred the video calls on the radio. He never looked better when he called into the show with that because it was only radio. It was only audio. So I appreciate that, Jamie. But in all seriousness, yes, we plan on opening up the phone lines for call-ins, and we'll have call-in segments when we get over the 500 subscriber barrier. So again, that's another reason if you want to call into the show and get interactive, help us get to 500 as soon as you can by sharing out the episodes and getting people to subscribe.
Yeah. And Jamie was much better on the radio anyway than he'll ever be in the world of video. And here's why. Okay. Because you know Boy Green and I know, but maybe some of our, our subscribers and our viewers don't know and don't know Jamie, and many of them don't.
Sure.
Because Jamie has a long history with us going all the way back to our radio days. Jamie's voice is the sound of a 12-year-old. As a matter of fact, the first time he ever came on the radio show some 15 plus years ago, I said to Bud, who was then my partner, who's this 12-year-old kid that keeps calling in on the show? And I think at first he wasn't even Jamie the FedEx. I think it was just Jamie,
Yeah, I don't think he presented himself
from
in that
North
way.
Syracuse or wherever, from Mattydale, wherever he's from, right? And so I was like, who is this 12-year-old kid that keeps calling in, man? I was like, man, it's this youthful little voice, this little squeaky voice. Hello, guys. Great to see you. I can't even do it, Jamie, right? And then we do a lot of in the radio world, we do what we call remotes, live remotes sometimes, where we go out to a venue and
charity function
live. And so we went out and did a live show, Bud and myself, and a lot of listeners will come to a live to meet us. We're usually giving away free stuff, maybe some bumper stickers, some t-shirts, some stuff from the radio station. And so one of these very early remotes, along comes this guy, kind of a I don't know, close to 6 foot tall guy, scruffy beard, and he's wearing a FedEx jacket, and he comes like, hey guys, how are you? And I was like, he's like, I'm Jamie, and I'm like looking at Bud like, what? That's Jamie? He's a grown man. He's an adult. I thought it was a 12-year-old kid we were talking to on the radio that we were letting in from time to time. This guy's a grown man. And so we had this whole nice conversation.
See, Jamie says it. I was going to add that part to the story.
It was Cams and Camillus. Yes, it was. I was our loyal sponsors, Cams. That's correct.
And at the time, I'm just an intern or whatever.
Were you there that day? I think you were.
100%. That's how I met. I was the front man so you go through Cams.
Correct. We're doing a show, so we got to have people kind of saying, hey, welcome, have a seat here.
You could sit here. Here's this. Right. Here's a little program. Here's a thanks for coming. Here's a button, whatever I was doing at the front door. And I'm that guy. And I was hearing people introduce themselves, and they would introduce, hey, I'm Scooter from Janesville. I'm like, whoa, okay. And in my head,
right. Regular callers. Yeah.
Yeah. I have no idea. I've only heard these people for Versadio, and I was the guy screening phone calls. So Scooter from Janesville, Tommy and DeWitt, Jamie the FedEx guy. I just Bill the produce guy now, who is William, and then Bill the FedEx guy, and there's all these different things. So yes, I was about to tell that part of the story to just say I remember I was the front guy getting people's names, and that's where I was like, oh my god, look at whoever this is or that is. So yeah, it was a crazy experience.
That was like the talk of that remote. Like after it ended, like the next day in the studio, I was like, "Boy, do you believe that's Jamie? That guy? That voice is that guy?" So it'll be. My point of this whole thing was it'll be completely spoiled in video land,
right?
Because Jamie still has that voice, but when you bring the voice and the face together, all right, then it doesn't have the same impact as when you've just been hearing the voice forever, and then you meet the face and the body, and you're like, "Come on." Couldn't be, right? Oh,
right.
So
although I do think there's going to be a flavor because you can read comments, but hearing them, whether only audio or video, when people realize what Jamie brings to the table, I will phrase it that way for these call-in segments. I just think you guys are going to get a different level of appreciation for this.
Yeah, and he frankly can be annoying. Like some of his comments today, like Manchild wants the Jets to be good, right? Like he's trying to say that I'm indifferent. He's making insults at my Knicks. Manchild's awesome, just throwing them things out there, yada yada. So Jamie's always, he's a wise guy. He's a bit of a wise guy.
A wise guy.
All right. Well, yes, Jamie. Once we get to 500, okay, Boy Green and I have plans, many plans, all kinds of cool plans.
Sure.
And one of them is that we will carve out some time to do video calls with our commenters and our viewers. So that's absolutely coming. So help us get there quicker. And then, dare I say, if you want to see Jamie's face and voice all together, you'll have the chance to do that. By the way, you're on your FedEx truck right now anyway, and you're supposed to be working. So get back to work and stop, doing things that you should be working instead of playing. I don't think it's lunch hour. Well, it could be lunch hour right now.
I guess that's true. Yeah,
I guess it could be lunch hour. Okay, look, that was a lot. That was a lot of fun. Number one, there's a lot to unpack. Everybody, if you haven't, I know not everybody in the room certainly is a Bills fan, but I think as a football fan, you should, like I'm going to do this afternoon, watch that Bills press this morning. I mean, holy crow. Terry Pagula and Brandon Beane trying to justify the firing of their coach, Sean McDermott, from just a couple of days ago, and then also justifying how they're going to move forward. I heard snippets before we got on the air today, and those snippets were, like big, faux pas in the world of PR. So I really want to take the whole thing, put it in context, so we're not just getting a little soundbite, see exactly what they said long form, but that's got to be entertaining, engaging television for sure. So you ought to check that out. And we obviously will break it all down along with the firing of McDermott and where the Bills go from here with our Bills insider, Anthony Prohaska. And we always talk to him tomorrow morning. So we'll have that out to you as soon as we finish that interview. So that's going to be a blast. I'm looking forward to that. Boy Green, final thoughts if you have any, my friend.
Yeah, just because we were on the Giants land, this update came in the middle of our show. The Giants plan on raiding the Ravens' coffers, and let me explain.
Let's do it, baby. Recruit.
Yeah. Players, that sort of stuff won't happen for another 6 weeks or so till we get to free agency.
I was say, any chance? What's his name? What's their safety's name? I'm forgetting.
Kyle Hamilton.
Oh, I'd love to get him.
Former Notre Dame Golden Domer.
He
just signed a brand new deal, so I don't think
he's not going anywhere. Too bad.
I don't think he's going anywhere. And I'm glad that John Schmelk immediately shut down Tyler Linderbaum stuff because I want Tyler Linderbaum. So great.
$20 million a year for a center.
I'll pay that. I don't care. It's not my money.
Yeah, I guess not.
Yeah, good for me.
It's a lot of money though.
But no, the report was this from Jordan Renan of ESPN. The belief is the Giants with John Harbaugh have or will request permission to speak with a significant number of Ravens coaches and employees, and they plan on submitting over 20 slips. Those are guys. The Ravens, of course, are in disarray because they don't have a head coach now, and they're in the middle of their process. So, the Ravens have already blocked their special teams coordinator, Chris Horton, from trying to make a lateral jump to the Giants. So they're saying, no, Harbaugh, no, we're not letting him do that. So we'll see, because if a new head coach comes in and doesn't want Horton, he can just let him go, and then Harbaugh can get him that way. So again, but a lot of drama apparently between the Giants and Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, new coaches want their own guys, but there can always be a couple of guys on the staff. Harbaugh's looking at the Giants staff right now and seeing if there's anybody that he wants to salvage from that staff. So
Jeff Ulbrich, he stayed and signed a brand new extension with Kevin Stefanski. They never worked together before. So
the amazing thing is, with there being 10 openings not too long ago, I know some of them have been filled now. I think we're down to 5 now. The fact of the matter is, you're going to have tremendous turnover in other coaches, assistant coaches, because these guys they don't immediately become free agents, but they are in most cases going to be free agents. So if they're not already, they're going to be. And as each hire is made and each guy evaluates, John Harbaugh right now over the next couple of days is going to evaluate his coaching staff, and then he's going to say, "You're in, you're out, you're in, you're out," and then all of a sudden you got a bunch of free agent coaches. Now those guys are available. Go wherever they want. Some guys are now locked in. Okay, and maybe they got a new contract or something. So anyway, there's a lot of that shuffling that goes on. So to have 10 teams in this same thing in the same cycle is going to create a lot of opportunity. To look around and find guys that you have common ground with. And the thing about coaches, we've said this for years and years, coaches are connected to coaches are connected to coaches. It's just this very tight brotherhood. So you always if you don't know the guy yourself, you're like one guy away from knowing the guy and knowing what he does. So it's a very, very tight world. So there are lots of logical connections, especially for coaches that have bounced around in different organizations. Oh, I work with that guy, work with that guy, work with that guy. You've worked with a lot of people if you've worked even in a few organizations. John Harbaugh's had a lot of stability, but he's been in the league a long time. And he's gone through a lot of coaching changes with his assistants over the years, because when you're good, people constantly are pilfering your coaching staff and you got to keep hiring other guys. But yeah, the word on the street is that if Monken doesn't get a head coaching job, he has, I guess, been, interviewing with the teams. If he doesn't go the head coaching route, then he would probably be the likely top choice for Harbaugh for OC. All right, and then you have that continuity right away. I don't know what they're going to do for defensive coordinator. That'll be a
Rex Ryan. You heard those?
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. I don't know.
Crazy.
There's a lot of things I like about Rex, but 10 years out of the game, I don't know about that. That's a little scary, but okay.
We'll see.
Interesting. Big names. All right, BG. All right, that'll put a nice neat bow on another live show. We'll be back at it again with Anthony Prohaska tomorrow. NFL picks on Friday. Again, if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to our channel. We're closing in on 500, a big landmark. There it is right there. YouTube.com/@MC Show Digital. We appreciate it. We'll treat you like gold. If you become a subscriber, you won't regret it. So click that subscribe button and become part of our growing family. We will see you again tomorrow, folks. Take care. Thanks for watching.